While I quietly worked to build a life for all of us, my family mocked me, humiliated me, and laughed at my dreams. They thought I would come crawling back when they needed me, but instead, I disappeared and built a future they could only envy. Now drowning in debt and abandoned by everyone they counted on, they beg for my forgiveness and help. But I'm already living the life they were never meant to share. You ever have a moment where the air just changes? Where your skin prickles and you know you just stepped into a memory you'll never forget? That was my birthday party. The night was supposed to be simple. I even remember what I was wearing: a navy blue button-down, sleeves rolled up, black jeans, and my old brown leather boots that Eleanor said made me look sturdy. I trimmed my beard just right, felt good, you know? Like maybe my family would finally see me. The house was full. The smell of roasted chicken, cake frosting, cheap beer, all mashed together in a thick, noisy cloud. My parents, my older brother Grant, my little sister Mia, even my loudmouthed Uncle Pete, all crammed in, laughing, drinking, passing around plates. I was reaching for a slice of pizza when I heard my mom clink a spoon against her wine glass. "Everyone, can we have your attention for a special announcement?" I froze mid-bite. Grant was smirking already. His fiancée, Danielle, barely suppressed a giggle. Mom stood up, still holding her wine, cheeks flushed. "Our boy Luke is officially unemployed," she shouted. Laughter exploded. Actual applause. I blinked. For a second, I thought it was some weird joke. "Lost his job at that, what's it called, honey?" "That startup thing," Dad supplied, grinning like he was proud. "Poor kid's moving back in with us. Don't worry, we'll find him a spot in the basement." More laughter. Even my 10-year-old nephew, Jake, pointed at me and snickered. I just stood there, slice of pizza hovering in the air, while everyone in the room laughed like it was a sitcom and I was the idiot character. Grant clapped me on the back hard enough to jostle my drink. "Don't feel bad, bro. Some people just aren't cut out for the corporate world." I smiled. I actually smiled. I don't know why. Reflex, maybe. Some ancient instinct to survive. I set the pizza down carefully, wiped my hands on a napkin. "Excuse me," I said, voice calm. Mia snorted. "Ah, don't be so sensitive." I walked out. Not fast. Not dramatically. Just walked. I could still hear them laughing as I closed the door behind me. I didn't even bother getting my jacket from the coat rack. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp, cutting through my thin shirt. I stared up at the dark sky and took a long, slow breath. Something inside me, something soft and hopeful, cracked. And then shattered. I walked to my car without looking back. I drove away without answering the 12 missed calls that started hitting my phone an hour later. They thought it was hilarious. They thought I was the punchline. But they'd just written themselves into a story they didn't even realize had already begun. I didn't go home that night. Not to the apartment I was still paying rent on. Not even to a friend's couch. Instead, I found this old motel off Route 6, the Silver Lantern, where the vacancy sign buzzed in that sad, desperate way neon does when it's clinging to life. $42 a night, no questions asked. The room smelled like cigarette smoke baked into the curtains, and the carpet was this crunchy blue-gray color. Perfect. I didn't check my phone once. I left it face down on the dresser, vibrating every few minutes like a dying beetle. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. They looked different somehow. Not softer. Not weaker. Just done. When the sun came up, painting everything in watery gold, I finally moved. First order of business, erase myself. I went to the bank. I froze joint accounts. I updated security questions. Next, self-service store. New phone, new number. I watched the clerk program it, his nose ring bobbing when he nodded to the music playing overhead. No contacts transferred. No social media synced. Nothing. Tabula rasa. Then, the lease. I broke it clean. Paid the fee, signed the forms with a steady hand. Landlord didn't ask why. Maybe he saw it in my face, the way a deer knows when the wolf isn't bluffing anymore. By nightfall, I was sitting at a different motel, Sunset Pines, 20 miles away. This one smelled like bleach and defeat. I ordered bad takeout and started sketching the blueprint in my head. Because while I disappeared, I made damn sure they felt it. Over the next 2 months, I made no contact. Birthday? Ignored. Grant's wedding shower? Ignored. Dad's retirement party invite? Ignored. Each silence a tiny cut. Each absence a growing question mark. Cousin Ellen finally cracked first. Sent a sweet message to my business email, saying the family was worried about me, that everyone missed my smile. I didn't respond. Meanwhile, I was stacking money. Moved into a crummy little studio. Spent nothing except essentials. Picked up a freelance consulting gig on top of my main job, yeah, the one I still had, because the fired from work joke was a total lie. They never even bothered to fact-check it. Too busy laughing. I lived like a ghost. Worked. Ate. Slept. Planned. Because disappearing wasn't the endgame. It was the seed. The seed that would grow into something they would never be able to chop down, no matter how many sad texts or teary voicemails they left. I wasn't just going to make them regret it. I was going to make them beg. 3 months after my disappearance, the real desperation started leaking through. First it was Mia, leaving voicemails late at night. Luke, come on, you're being dramatic. Mom's been crying. Dad's a mess. Just call us, okay? Then came the emails. Cousins. Old family friends. Even Grant's fiancée, Danielle, wrote some crap about forgiveness as a virtue. Funny how suddenly I was worth tracking down. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. Someone, probably Uncle Pete, running his mouth, had told them I was doing very well. They didn't know exactly what, just that I had connections now. That phrase made me laugh when I first heard it. They thought I had power. Money. Leverage. They were right, but not in the way they hoped. I let it simmer a few more weeks, making sure they marinated in that lovely sauce of confusion and dread. Then one chilly Sunday morning, I texted Mia. Family dinner next weekend? My treat. No emoji. No warm exclamation point. Just plain. Dry. Perfect bait. Their response was instant. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The group chat I had muted for months exploded. Even Grant chimed in with a lame, good to have you back, bro. I picked a restaurant downtown. Mid-tier, nothing flashy, but nice enough that they'd have to wear real shoes. When I walked in that night, I made sure to look sharp. Tailored black dress shirt, slim charcoal slacks, polished brown shoes. Watch glinting under the dim lighting. I looked expensive. The kind of expensive they never thought I'd reach. They were already there when I arrived. Whole family, lined up at a long table. When they saw me, the noise stopped for a second, mouth still open, hands mid-gesture. Mom stood up first, arms outstretched. Oh, honey. I let her hug me. Limp and polite, like an acquaintance at a work function. Look at you, she gushed, stepping back to hold my arms, eyes shining. You look amazing. Grant clapped my back a little too hard, forcing a laugh. Guess the basement wasn't so bad after all, huh? I smiled. Tight. Nope. Guess it wasn't. Dinner was full of fake warmth. Laughter that felt 2 seconds too late. Compliments stacked like Jenga blocks, shaky and desperate. I played my part beautifully. I smiled when they bragged about how tight-knit our family was. I laughed softly at Uncle Pete's tired jokes. I even nodded sympathetically when Mia sniffled about how scary it was thinking you might be gone for good. Then, halfway through dessert, a burnt cheesecake no one finished, I dropped the real bomb. I've been thinking, I said casually, swirling my fork in the crumbs. About family. About fresh starts. They all leaned in, smelling blood. I'm buying a property, I said. Big place. Historic, needs work, but beautiful bones. Mom's hands flew to her chest. Grant's wife gasped audibly. Dad set down his coffee mug with a hopeful thunk. I want us all to live there, I continued. Together. Like the old days. Mom actually teared up. Oh, Luke, that's all I ever wanted. I smiled. Warm. Reassuring. Inside, I felt nothing. It'll be a lot of work, I added. But if you trust me, I'll handle everything. You just move in and make it a home. The room practically vibrated with their excitement. The night ended with clumsy group hugs and promises to start packing soon. They had no idea. Not the slightest whisper of a clue. They thought they were stepping into comfort, security, and a second chance. Instead, they were stepping right into my open jaws. The house was perfect. Perfectly horrible. A sagging Victorian on the edge of town, draped in ivy and rot. The kind of house you could squint at and imagine grandeur if you ignored the cracked foundation, termite damage, and the fact it was one bad storm away from collapsing. I bought it for a song. Cash. Quietly. Through a shell company. The title and deed? Legally in their names. Not mine. Not even close. I handled all the paperwork, smiling the whole time. At the notary office, I wore a sharp gray coat, black gloves. Looked like the picture of professionalism. Meanwhile, the ink drying on the contracts was like chains wrapping around their necks, one link at a time. But I didn't stop there. I enhanced the situation a little. I paid a guy I knew from my freelance days, a specialist, to dig into public records. Turns out, the property had 3 decades worth of unpaid municipal fines for things like unsecured hazard, non-compliant renovations, and failure to maintain historic character. Tens of thousands of dollars in hidden debt. And the cherry on top? It was technically zoned incorrectly now. Which meant the second they moved in, they'd be legally responsible for bringing it up to code, an impossible expense. I packaged it all up neatly. Made sure the utilities were transferred to their names, backdated to the date of sale. Made sure the insurance would be voided the second they filed their first claim. Every shovel of dirt I threw on the trap made it deeper, sweeter. Moving day came. Bright, sunny, like some cruel joke. I wore jeans and a simple white t-shirt, playing the part of dutiful son. I helped Mia unload her endless tote bags. I even carried Dad's heavy leather recliner up the cracked front steps, feeling every loose board wobble under my feet. Mom was radiant. She walked through the place like a queen reclaiming her castle. I can see it all already, she gushed, arms spread wide. Thanksgiving dinners. Grandkids running around. Grant winked at me while hauling a box inside. See, bro? We knew you'd come through eventually. I smiled. By sunset, they were fully moved in. I ordered pizza for everyone. Paid cash. Sat on the creaky porch swing and listened to them make plans. New paint here. Knock down that wall. Replace the windows. Dreams built on sand. That night, I didn't stay. I made some excuse about work in the morning, kissed Mom's cheek, shook Dad's hand, clapped Grant on the shoulder. We're so proud of you, Mom whispered when I hugged her. I smiled so wide my face hurt. Welcome home, I whispered back. Then I got in my car and drove away, leaving them to their inheritance. The ticking time bomb was armed. Now all I had to do was wait. The first cracks showed within 2 weeks. I got the first call from Dad while I was finishing a workout. I let it go to voicemail, wiped sweat off my forehead, and listened to it later with a protein shake in my hand. Hey, Luke, Dad said, his voice tight, fake casual. Listen, there's some weird notices showing up at the house. Nothing big, just city stuff. Give me a call when you can. Weird notices. Cute. I smiled, set the phone down, and went back to my dumbbells. A few days later, Mom texted a picture, a bright red paper nailed to the front door. Violation notice, unsafe structure. Still, I stayed silent. No panic. No reaction. The trap was still sinking in. They needed time to wriggle. To realize the chains weren't imaginary. At first, they tried to handle it. Dad and Grant went down to the town hall, tried to sweet-talk the clerk. Probably flashing fake smiles and thin wallets. Didn't matter. You can't charm your way out of $87,000 in outstanding fines and mandatory repairs. The texts shifted tone. Mia. Luke, do you know anything about the back taxes? They're saying something about liens? Dad. Need you to come with me to city council meeting. Bring any paperwork you have. Mom, classic. Honey, we appreciate everything you did. But you didn't mention some things. Just call us, okay? Love you. The sugar was already dissolving into vinegar. One evening, I got bold. I drove past the house after sunset, windows dark in my car, hoodie up. They had strung up fairy lights around the porch, trying to make it look cheerful. It didn't. The siding peeled like sunburnt skin. The porch sagged deeper than before. There was a yellow city sticker slapped across the mailbox now, pending condemnation. Perfect. 3 weeks in, Mia cracked first. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on the door. I didn't answer. Just stood inside, sipping coffee, listening to her muffled shouts through the thin wood. Luke! Open the damn door. You have to fix this. You have to. Eventually, she slumped against the door and cried. Loud, ugly sobs. I finished my coffee and turned on a podcast to drown it out. Next came Dad, calling over and over again, voice messages growing angrier. You're part of this. You can't just walk away. You own this house with us. Except I didn't. That was the final little knife twist. Legally, everything tied back to them. Their problem. Their burden. Their nightmare. After about a month, Grant sent the message I had been waiting for. Bro, a family meeting. Everyone. Saturday. 5 p.m. You have to come. I stared at the message for a long time. Then typed back one word. Of course. I slipped my best black blazer out of the closet that night. Polished my brown boots until they gleamed. The final act was coming. And I planned to look flawless when the curtains fell. I arrived at the house Saturday evening just as the sun was sinking low, spilling a burnt orange glow over everything. The place looked worse than I remembered. Weeds choking the flower beds. Paint curling like dead skin. A sagging sadness hung over the whole property. I parked at the curb and took a moment to straighten my blazer in the mirror. Tight dark jeans. White dress shirt, no tie. Leather watch peeking from under my cuff. I looked like success wrapped in skin. I wanted them to feel it when they saw me. When I stepped onto the porch, Dad opened the door before I could knock. His face was tight, red from anger or shame or both. About time, he muttered. Inside, the living room was a battlefield. Mom perched on the fraying couch, tissues clutched in one hand, mascara smudged. Grant stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, his jaw grinding. Mia paced in front of the windows, her boots leaving muddy tracks on the warped floorboards. No one smiled. No one hugged me. Good. I stood there, letting the heavy silence stretch. Sit, Dad barked finally. I stayed standing. Talk. Mom gave this weak little hiccup and waved the stack of papers in her hand. Debt collectors, she said, voice quivering. Liens. Eviction notices. Her voice cracked. We're going to lose everything, Luke. Everything. I tilted my head. And? Mia spun toward me, eyes wild. And? Luke, what the hell is wrong with you? You bought this place. You stuck us with it. Dad's fists clenched. You think this is funny? I finally smiled. Slow. Wide. Actually? I think it's justice. Their faces froze. I stepped forward, letting my voice drop low. You humiliated me. You made me a joke at my own birthday party. You treated my life like a punchline for cheap laughs. Mom opened her mouth, probably to sob some excuse, but I cut her off with a flick of my hand. You thought you could throw me to the wolves and I'd come crawling back. You thought you could laugh at me, mock me, discard me, and then I'd still be your good little son when you needed help. Grant's face flushed dark red. This is insane, Luke. Family sticks together. Family? I laughed, soft and bitter. You showed me exactly what family meant to you that night. I pulled out my phone, tapped once, and played the recording I'd been saving. Their voices blared out into the broken living room. Mom's fake sweet coo. Poor Luke. Probably be begging to move into the basement within a month. Dad's drunken guffaw. Might as well reserve a corner next to the water heater. Grant's snicker. Bet he'll end up asking for handouts before New Year's. Mia's mocking giggle. They sat there, listening to their own voices betray them in surround sound. When the recording ended, the only sound was the wind rattling the broken window pane. You bought this house, I said finally, tucking my phone away. You signed the deeds. You took the responsibility. All I did was let you. I turned toward the door. Mom's voice broke behind me. Luke, please, we're your family. We love you. I paused. Turned my head just enough so she could see my smile. You loved the version of me who didn't know better. And I walked out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't shout. Didn't rage. I left them sitting there, drowning in the consequences they built for themselves. By the time I reached my car, the first shouts started inside. I drove away, the setting sun casting my shadow long across the cracked pavement. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The messages started that same night. First it was Mom. We can fix this. Please call me. Then Mia. You're acting insane. We're family. Then Grant, predictably more hostile. You'll regret this, asshole. Don't think you're better than us. I didn't reply to a single one. I muted the chat, set my phone on silent, and sat on my balcony with a glass of bourbon. The city lights blinked lazily in the distance. Below, people laughed and lived, none of them knowing that somewhere a family was coming apart at the seams because of one man's quiet, careful revenge. The next morning, Vanessa, one of the few cousins I still tolerated, texted me. They're already trying to sell the house. No buyers. Words gotten around about the violations. I smiled into my coffee. The thing about small towns is reputation sticks like tar. The moment the house hit the market, every realtor, every gossip, every neighbor knew it was cursed property. A money pit. A lawsuit magnet. Nobody touched it. The debts piled up. The code violations escalated into lawsuits. The city scheduled a hearing for condemnation. Nia tried moving back in with her ex-boyfriend. Grant and Danielle bailed to her parents' cramped house. Mom and Dad? Last I heard, they were living in a rundown motel by the highway, the same kind of place they used to joke only losers stayed at. The irony tasted sweeter than any cake they ever served at one of their fake family dinners. Meanwhile, me? I signed a lease on a new loft downtown. Exposed brick, tall windows, actual space to breathe. I built my consulting business bigger, faster. Launched a side company. Started seeing a woman with a sharp laugh and sharper boundaries. Life moved forward like a river unblocked. One afternoon, about 3 months later, I got one last letter. Handwritten. Torn edges. It was from Mom. A long, rambling apology. Excuses woven into regrets. Claims that they didn't realize how much damage they'd done. Begging me to come back. To save the family. I read it once. Carefully. Folded it neatly. And dropped it into the shredder. I didn't even feel anger anymore. Not pity. Not sadness. Just distance. Freedom isn't loud. It isn't fireworks or grand speeches. It's a quiet cup of coffee on a Sunday morning. It's smiling when no one's around. It's knowing you owe nothing to the people who tried to break you. They wrote me off as a joke. I rewrote the ending. And they? They're still stuck inside their punchline, telling themselves the next move will fix everything. I don't have to watch. I don't have to care. The chapter is closed. The book is finished. And I'm already busy writing a whole new one they'll never, ever be part of.